My friend's daughter the other day said, when I grow up, I want to be a giraffe. So I was hate to break it to you. Sometimes, you can't always do what you set your mind to, right? And I think sometimes if we tamper that expectation that, we give it a go, we try, we fall down, we fail. Sometimes it's you can't do anything you set your mind to. Zach, I also wanted to ask you a question. I kind of touch upon this in my talk, but I want to ask you if you felt the same way. As I sometimes find that some speakers are disingenuous when they say you can do anything that you put your mind to.
I agree.
Right? Like when you say just fail and it's all good, right? I tried water skiing. I grew up in Minnesota, land of 10,000 lakes. And
do you have any video of that? Because I bet that was entertaining.
Well, if you like those Wipeout, America's Funniest Videos. I mean, I spent so much time on my face that even as a kid, I said to myself, I don't think this is for me. I just couldn't quite do it, even though I could ski down a mountain on snow. I just fell, tried. I couldn't get the balance thing. It was just something I couldn't always do. And sometimes I say you can't be 6'5" and be a horse jockey. But the story that I like to take away from that is I tried it, I gave it a go. My dad, my uncle, everyone would kind of try to do the best they could to support me, to get me up and all these kind of things. But I just couldn't get it going. My friend's daughter the other day said, when I grow up, I want to be a giraffe. So I was hate to break it to you. Sometimes, you can't always do what you set your mind to, right? And I think sometimes if we tamper that expectation that, we give it a go, we try, we fall down, we fail. Sometimes it's you can't do anything you set your mind to. I don't know how you feel about that. I want to ask you your opinion on that.
Oh my God, I totally agree with you, and I do think that there's a concept now and there's a title for this that has just been coming around recently because it's become so prevalent, and because you and I are in kind of sort of similar circles, you've probably heard of it as well. It's the topic of toxic positivity, where people online are never negative. They're never saying bad things. Everything's always positive and you can do your best. And that can be just as toxic as negativity. You have to be realistic about the things that you can and can't do. The difference is, I think people's barometers of what's realistic and doable are vastly undershooting what they're really capable of. So I really believe the vast majority of people undersell their capabilities, but there is a limit or there is a ceiling. And I'll give you an example of how I teach this. I haven't really talked about this on the podcast at all, but you asked such a good question. I love it. So I'm sure that you've heard of the concept of SMART goals. SMART, right? Make them specific and measurable and actionable, right? Very corporate speaky. If you want to set yourself some quarterly goals, set SMART goals, right? So it's not that SMART goals don't work. I think that SMART goals are incredibly, excruciatingly boring, because you're trying to just set this framework that everybody else is using to set very, very similar goals in a different context. So I've actually turned that on its head, and I have my students set stupid goals. Acronym still applies, but it's a stupid goal instead. And here's how it works. By the way, PS, spoiler alert, most of it is stolen from the SMART framework. It's almost the same, but there's two key differences. Number one, it's specific, exactly the same. And by specific, I mean measurable. T, time sensitive, needs a deadline. Here's where it starts to deviate. You better be uncomfortable pursuing this goal. Because if there's a level of comfort and there's no fear, your goal's not big enough. But P, you still have to be practical. Like, is this something that I can actually achieve? Not that it's not going to be crazy hard or nearly impossible, but let's be practical. I can't grow up and be a giraffe. If I'm 4'8", I'm not going to be a center in the NBA. But if I'm 4'8", maybe I can be a ninja warrior instead, because I can find where in one context my height is a disability versus it's a superpower. And then the I is that it must be inspiring. If you're not inspired to go after this thing, just like not being uncomfortable, it's probably boring. And then most importantly, if you're going to properly set a goal that you can achieve, you must put yourself in the D, driver's seat. If you're setting a goal that requires all of these outside circumstances and things outside of your control, you set yourself up for failure. So yes, you and I could not be more on the same page about this idea of toxic positivity. Put your mind to it. I want you to create a vision board, and I want you to manifest your affirmations, and you can make anything possible. Bullshit. But I also believe that the vast majority of people vastly undersell what they're capable of and what they can achieve.